Well, hi, everyone, and greetings from Northern Michigan. This is Bob the Science Guy. You know, a couple of weeks ago, I had the pleasure of interviewing Ranty over his conversion from the flat Earth to a globe Earth, and this series is the result of that interview. Well, the first episode is going to be something that's been covered on other channels, but I'm going to give my take on it. What was special about this particular photograph that made Ranty go back on his belief on the flat Earth and return to the globe? So we're going to spend a few minutes chatting with Ranty about this photograph of Blackpool, England. Now, in subsequent episodes, we're going to look at some other things that came out of this interview. Things like, why did Ranty go into the flat Earth to begin with? What is the typical mindset of the flat earther? What about the leaders of the flat Earth community like Nathan Oakley and Quantum Eraser and Anthony Riley? What's their motivations? What's their story? And finally, we're going to talk about ways to avoid going down the flat Earth rabbit hole. So let's cue up the music and get going.
Well, it's been an interesting week and a half, that's for sure.
That it most definitely has, Ranty.
Oh, the amount of dirt coming out from the flat Earth debate side.
Wow. It's a pity. Well, hi, everyone, and greetings from Northern Michigan. This is Bob the Science Guy. I have been assured that everybody has got audio, both for me and my special guest today, Ranty.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ranty, and nice to be on Bob the Science Guy's channel.
I'm very glad that Ranty stopped by to say hello today because there's been an awful lot of controversy lately in the flat Earth community. Ranty, formerly Ranty Flat Earth, as we all know, has been a relatively well-known flat earther for the last several years, at least as long as I've been doing this. How long were you in the flat Earth, Ranty?
Close to 5 years.
Yeah, that's even longer than I've been involved in any of this stuff here. So I never knew Ranty as anything other than a flat earther. And then all of a sudden, this great bombshell came out not long ago. And that was a photograph of Blackpool, England, with the Blackpool Tower in the foreground and the mountains in the background. Tell us a little bit about that. What caused you to question some of your earlier beliefs with it? What was it that really just kind of hit you about that particular image?
Well, it was obviously taken from a different angle from where I filmed. So this was actually looking over that Blackpool. So where I film, you would say that it was about 15 miles away from where the observation was actually taken. And it gave a different perspective. So you know, my observations were always done at the shoreline, looking at Barrow over water. And this was looking at Blackpool with the mountains behind. So there was no water involved in this. And it was just such a beautiful picture. It had such clear imagery. You know, there was no P900 stuff. This was a great quality camera that was taken this image, somebody that knew how to take a picture too. And, you know, after first looking at it, the first thing was to analyze it, as you do. I mean, that's all I've done for years. So I saw this image and I just thought, wow, I'm going to crush the Globers with this image, you know, because, you know, we've got Blackpool, you know, my local area, which is flat. And we're going to be looking over that to these mountains, and we're absolutely going to crush the globe here. So I went out and I started doing the calculations and figuring out some stuff and checking the mountains behind. And yeah, it wasn't what I expected at all. You know, it was.
What was your Houston, we have a problem moment?
Well, when the good thing about this image was, and I'll tell you my reasons behind this, is like normally the mountains, you know, if I'm looking at Wales or things like that, they're very murky and dull and brown and dark, and you can't really make many features out on them. But in this instance, with this one photograph, the snow that had fallen probably over the last couple of days had lay on the mountain, and it just accentuated the mountain so beautifully. And the shadows that it cast on it gave this 3D effect. So there was no denying what you were looking at on the mountain. So it was very clear to me to just be able to say, okay, I can definitely pick out individual features on this mountain. So the analysis became pretty easy then. And we had this big saddle, I would say. It was like a saddle between Dow Crag and the Old Man of Coniston. And where that intersected the tower at the very bottom, you know, I was able to determine an elevation where that was. And as soon as I did that and I looked back at the image, I realized there was a big problem then, because I knew there was about another 350 meters or so of the mountain. And I knew where Eyeline was. I knew where it intersected Blackpool. And I knew that I just knew that when I was looking at that, I was only seeing about just over half of the mountain. Even if I could see through Blackpool, it was still only just over half of the mountain. And that was a really tough thing for me to swallow, I have to say. I mean, I saw that and I didn't know what to think. I had to go over my calculations again. I ran some different tests. I did a bunch of different things, and I still couldn't answer it in any way, shape, or form. And at that point, I actually contacted Conspiracy Cats and said to him, "Hey, listen, I think I found an image here that might prove the globe, and I'm a bit stumped over this because I don't know what to do because I've been looking at it and I can't get it out of my head. It's driving me nuts, and you know, I want you to take a look at it." And yeah, that was it.
Well, the result was kind of history, because what you ended up doing was actually going on Conspiracy Cats' channel. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'd put the image out to Conspiracy Cats, and I don't know if you know him too well, but he's a lazy bugger. But then again, I say he's a lazy bugger, and I'm kind of doing him a disservice because he's literally working 14, 15 hours every day. That sounds, you know, but he's spread so thinly over everything that he does. I mean, I was speaking to him today, and he's going into another partnership working with Team Skeptics, so I believe. So that's something that's going to be coming out soon. So he's got Team Skeptics, he's got Debate, Agree to Disagree, he's got his own Baldy Cats channel, his Conspiracy Cats channel, he's got my channel that he's working with the Almost Unbelievable channel, he's got his teaching at school, his online teaching, and he's writing a book.
Well, he's kind of a broad-banded individual. You know, and I've always admired what he does. So the fact that he used this as a means to kind of instruct his, I think it's early high school physics that he teaches, you know, to give them examples of how to solve problems is, I think, how he got into the flat earth to begin with. But I went ahead and I put up this image that we're all talking about. This is the infamous Black Swan of Blackpool. Now, these mountains that are in the background are the ones that you normally don't see. You're on that side looking this way, correct? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, no. I mean, to be fair, I mean, when I go down to the beach, I can see those mountains, but I'm actually at Blackpool looking at the mountains. So I'm just looking across a little bit of water. The mountains are, because you're reasonably close to them, you don't take a lot of notice of them, to be fair. I mean, it's not like you had something in the foreground that can parallax it as good as this. So I never took much attention to it because it was just water, mountains, and it's like, okay. And I know I could see the shoreline across the other way, so I knew I could see. You know, it was just too much trouble to even think about doing any kind of research on them. My focus was on Barrow and Barrow Town Hall and what happened across the water. I wasn't too bothered about the mountains. But because this was taken from a different perspective, with Blackpool sort of like in the middle and then the mountains behind it, I was able to then apply all the knowledge that I'd used prior to this to this image, because it was, you know, everything's known. The elevation of the towers is known. The elevation of the mountains is known. And because it's so beautifully lit, you know, that mountain.
Yeah, the sun on the snow is just striking with the shadows and such. It makes very good contrast to the silhouettes of Blackpool in the foreground. But this is the area right here that kind of raised your ire. And that is, this is the Blackpool Tower. And then this mountain right in the background. What's this mountain called back here?
Which one? I can't see which one you're looking at.
Oh, the one that's directly behind Blackpool Tower.
That's Dow Crag.
That's Dow Crag. And Dow Crag is what, 700 and some odd meters tall?
Yeah, I think 768 or 778 meters tall, yeah.
And Blackpool Tower, did you say that was 119 or 190 meters?
Its elevation to the top is about 166.
166 meters. So, you know, obviously, if something is closer to us, it will be larger, and due to perspective, you know, the further object would appear smaller. But perspective is built on angular size, and the angular size of this tower at some 19 kilometers versus the angular size of this mountain at some 81 kilometers or so, isn't it? I believe it's 81 kilometers. But the bottom line is, on a flat plane with two triangles, that mountain was taller than that tower. Yet it is not. And you had some questions about this. You didn't believe this when you first saw it. The unassailable conclusion of this is the fact that, you know, there's some 330 meters of that mountain that's missing. And it's missing from the bottom. The bottom of the mountain is a known location. As you say, people live there. And that would be well below the water line here.
Correct. Yeah, and I tried to solve it by looking at all the problem solving that we would have used on different images in the past. So I was looking at this and I was looking for some kind of compression that might have been happening on the mountain or towards the bottom. That wasn't evident at all. I was looking for some kind of refraction that was going on that was distorting the image. And it's quite clear that there is no refraction going on towards the tower, towards the big one, the ice blast, the mountains in the distance. I was looking for any kinds of effects of sinking. And obviously, if there was going to be sinking on the mountain, it would also be sinking on the tower as well. So it didn't matter. I was applying a load of different techniques that I'd, you know, researched, and it just wasn't working. There was no getting around this. This was just like a slam dunk, and it was like a kick in the guts for me, because that mountain on a plane should have been about the same amount higher as it is dropped. So when you take that into account, you know, when you're looking at that, you should have been seeing the mountain way higher than the tower, and it wasn't even close. It's not even like it was just a few pixels. You're talking about a huge amount of drop here, very visible. And the only conclusion that I could come to was clearly that just the terrain that it sits on has to be dropped. It has to be, because there's no other explanation for it. It's impossible on a flat plane. It's as simple as that. And, you know, that 5 years of researching it, and then to see this image, it kind of just turned my life upside down. Even though, to be fair, I had stepped away from the debates and, you know, sort of like slowed down a lot and was moving past that. But, you know, now that I'm sort of back in it, it's only because of this image, you know, because this popped up.
The one thing that I do want to bring up to you is that this is not the first time we've seen an image like this. And I did one in January of 2019. And it's my understanding that you've not seen this, correct?
Which one is that? I won't have seen many others like this. I've never really looked too much at these type of parallax problems before. I did with Miles Davis's, but I discounted them for a number of different reasons, and, you know, they certainly weren't as easy to understand as this one.
All right. Now, I sent you this not long ago, but I thought we'd go over it real quick. This is J. Tolan Media One's photograph, rather famous infrared photograph of Mount San Jacinto in California. Now, this is a mountain that's south of Los Angeles, out by Palm Springs. And he took a picture with a regular camera that had an infrared filter on it from Point Dume, which is in Malibu, California, approximately 123 miles away. And here is the image that he got. Now, what I had done with this particular was that I had gone to Google Earth and I had gotten a similar image. I drew the line of sight right here, and then I got a screen capture of this image of Mount San Jacinto. And then I had marked off a couple of elevations on this mountain. And the end result was I matched up my screenshot to J. Tolan Media One's actual image, and it was a very good match, as you can see. This indicates that over 6,000 feet of this mountain is missing. And on the globe Earth, the horizon should be at a certain elevation, which I had marked on the mountain, and you see this red cross right here. On this shot, that's where the horizon was going to be. And as you can see on Jay Tolan's shot on the globe, that's exactly where it turned out. How would you approach looking at this particular image?
Yeah, I would try and do a similar thing. I would try and work out the, what you can actually make out of the mountains, try to scale it up, try and pick out individual ridges on it. Mm-hmm. And, then you would just obviously try and make a scale to see, in relation to the buildings in the foreground, where the base of that mountain should be as regards eyeline.
All right. Well, do you want to take a moment and kind of go through it real quick?
Yeah, sure.
This is an interesting guy named OK Raylos, who did 3D models based on topographical data of California, of Mount San Jacinto. Now, as you can see right here, what he did was he put a camera at Point Dume, and then he looked down towards Mount San Jacinto. And then what he did was he actually lined it right up with Jay Tolan Media One's image. See, that's a different mountain. That was the second image that he had over here. But as you can see, those match up very nicely. Would you agree?
I can't refute it.
Yeah. So the problem that you run into is this image is not of a flat Earth. It's Mount San Jacinto, but it's not an image of a flat Earth. And as you can see right there, there's a curve to the Earth in the data that he's got. But we can, however, see what it would look like. We can see what Mount San Jacinto would look like on a flat Earth. And that's what he did right here. The horizon lines up exactly between the refracted and the non-refracted image on the globe Earth, as would be predicted. You see the difference between the flat Earth there and the globe Earth here?
Yep.
Now, if you had seen this 2 years ago, what kind of impact would this have had on you?
If I'm going to be completely honest,
yeah,
probably not much.
Well, and there you have it. That was Ranty's journey back to reality based on this photograph of Blackpool, England. But for those of you that were listening carefully, a problem has come up, and that was just in this last little segment. Now, one of the things that I brought up, something that fascinated me, was what was special about this photograph. Yes, it's an excellent photograph. Yes, it's a fantastic globe Earth proof. However, this is certainly not the first that we've put out. Miles Davis put out an excellent globe Earth proof that was very similar to this almost 3 years ago. 2 years ago, I put out my analysis of the Mount San Jacinto photograph from Jay Tolan Media One. Clear-cut evidence of globe Earth. Clear-cut evidence of exactly the same phenomena that we see here. Why was it that Ranty never saw these things? Why was it that he didn't address them? Why was it that they didn't convert him then? What was special about this one? Well, I think he said it very clearly. He didn't look at any of the other ones. He wasn't interested in any of the other ones. He only wanted globe Earth proof from his own neighborhood. And quite frankly, the fact that another flat earther had taken the same type of an image as this one was kind of the icing on the cake for him. Why don't flat earthers believe evidence unless it's convenient for them to believe evidence and meets some rather bizarre requirements that they have? I admire Ranty for actually seeing the light and acting on the data that he was presented with. But that said, why didn't he do it long ago? Because the evidence has been there. Why do people still stay with the flat Earth narrative when evidence such as this has been presented to them for 5 years? So join me in our next episode where we look at how Ranty got involved in the flat Earth in the first place. I think you'll enjoy it. So this is Bob the Science Guy. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Take care.
falls too deep for me.